How to configure Casc Permissions in CloudBees CI. In CloudBees CI 2.452.2.3, a new feature was released for being able to manage Casc Permissions. Up until this point, the only people that could make changes to Casc were the administrators of the Operations Center with Casc Permissions. Now administrators can delegate the management of Casc to other people. So here's today's starting point. I have a CloudBees CI Operations Center and controller. They're both at version 2.452.2.3. Both my Operations Center and my controller have all of the necessary configuration as code plugins installed on them. Now there is documentation for Casc Permissions. The link to this documentation is down below the video. And let's take a look at it real quick. What we can do now is CloudBees CI administrators can grant Casc-specific role permissions to users or groups so they can perform different tasks within the Casc bundles. So there's 5 different permissions that are available to us. We have Administer, which gives us the full overall Casc permissions to do anything within Casc, but Casc alone. We have Checkout, Item, Read, and Read Checkout. Now, how do we make sure that this works? First off, we have to make sure that the CloudBees Casc shared plugin is installed within your CloudBees CI cluster. Once that's done, we're going to need to enable the Manage or System Read Permissions in order for the Administer and Read role permissions to show up in the UI. Now in my cluster, I have not set those permissions up yet. So let's go take a look at how it looks with just the plugins installed. So let's go over to our Operations Center. We'll click on Roles and click on Manage. What we'll see here under CloudBees Casc Permissions is we have 3 different roles. We have Checkout, Item, and Read Checkout. But remember, there are 2 others. We have 5 total. So how do we set that up? Again, we'll go back over to Casc Permissions. We're going to set either the Manage permission or the System Read permission. Now in my case, I'm going to go as low as possible. So I'm going to select System Read Permission. I'm going to copy this. Now I'm running on an Alma Linux based system, so I'm going to modify my etc sysconfig file and restart my Operations Center. So first off, let's go into our Operations Center. I'm going to edit my etc sysconfig file. Let's look for options, and we can see all of my Jenkins Java options. So this is a -d system property. So let's go to the end of this line, and let's paste in our -d Jenkins security system read permission equal to true. And we'll close that back up. Let's go ahead and save this and restart our service. Now, one thing to keep in mind, we added this permission to our Operations Center, but we haven't added it yet to our controller. We also need to make this change on every controller that's connected to the Operations Center. So let's go ahead and exit out of this. We've logged into our client controller. We'll make the same change. vi etc sysconfig CloudBees core cm. Look for options. We'll go to the end of the line and paste in our system read permission equal to true. Let's go ahead and save this, and let's restart our service. Now let's go ahead and go back over to our Operations Center. We'll have to log back in. And now that we've logged back in, again, we'll go to Roles, Manage, and now we can see under CloudBees Casc Permissions, we have Administer, Checkout, Item, Read, and Read Checkout. So now we have all 5 permissions available to us within our role setup. So now we're ready to go ahead and set up roles and groups to use those roles and assigning users to those groups. Let's go ahead and do one of these as an example. Let's go ahead and go back over to our documentation. We'll scroll down the documentation a little bit more. So we need to create a new role if the role hasn't been created. Well, it hasn't. That's what we're going to do. So in the role to add, we're going to create a new role. We'll call it Casc Admin. In our case, we're going to give just the administer privilege under CloudBees Casc Administer. So let's go ahead and go back over into our Manage Roles. I'm going to call it Casc-Admin. Click on Add. Find that. I'll leave it filterable, but under CloudBees Casc Permissions Administer, let's go ahead and check that box. And let's go ahead and click on Save. So now what we can see here with our Casc Admin is we see the permissions that are available for Casc Admin. If we go ahead and go back into Manage, again, we can see that the only box that's checked for Casc Admin, other than filterable, is our CloudBees Casc Permissions Administer. Let's go back over to the documentation. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and assign that role to a group. So let's go ahead and create a new group. We'll call it Casc Admins. So we'll click on Groups. We'll add a new group, call it Casc Admins. In this case, let's go ahead and grant it Casc Admin Role. grant it at current level, and allow it to propagate. That way it propagates from the root of the Operations Center all the way through all of our controllers. And let's go ahead and click on Save. So we have the Casc admin role associated to the Casc admins group. But notice there are no members associated with this group yet. So if we go back to the documentation, the next step was to go ahead and add a user to this group. Now I've already gone ahead and set up a user on this controller, and that user's name is Casc-admin-user. Click on OK. So now we set up a role with Casc admin. We created a group that's associated with that role, and now we've added a user to this new group. If we scroll down a little bit, we can see the permissions that are available to this user. We have administer checkout, read, and read checkout. So let's go ahead and log out from this controller as admin, and let's log in as my Casc admin user. And what we can see here is Casc admin user is missing the overall read permission, but that's actually okay, because all I want this user to be able to do is to be able to do Casc administration. And if you think about it from a Casc administration perspective, the Casc administrator doesn't need to be inside of my Operations Center. They only need to be able to have a user that when they're applying the Casc bundles, then that user with its API token will be able to do the work that's associated with Casc. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on X at CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.